On a moonless night, a piercing cry broke the silence inside a modest home in the distant city of Nakbele. Yaya, a kind-hearted woman, known for her gentle spirit, doubled over in sudden crippling pain. The food before her was poisoned, her face contorted as she struggled to breathe, the life fading from her eyes. In the shadows of that room stood her sister Adama, watching in grim satisfaction as Yaya took her final gasping breath. This was the darkest moment in a story that began long before, in a quiet village nestled deep in the heart of Africa. The village was small, its huts made of mud brick, and the people lived close to the land. They rose before the sun to tend fields and livestock, then retired at dusk to sit around fires, sharing stories and simple meals. Among these villagers were two sisters, Adama and Yaya. In their younger days, they had been close. They ran through the dusty lanes, fetched water from the well, and sang songs under the wide African sky. But as they grew older, Yaya's path led her far from home. She left the village for Nakbele, a place many called the city of new beginnings. Word travelled back of Yaya's success. She lived in a warm apartment and had good friends. She sent letters and small gifts to her family. Her parents and neighbours praised her kindness and her new life. Over time, she became known as a shining example of what determination could bring. Adama, however, stayed behind. Though skilled in the secret arts, she rarely used her power for anything good. Her heart, once open, turned cold and bitter. Each time a messenger arrived with happy news about Yaya, Adama's anger festered. She felt overlooked and resentful, believing that her sister's fortune should have been hers. One late evening, Adama's envy reached a peak. She stood by the small fire in her hut, staring at the flames. The light cast dancing shadows on the walls, twisting her features into a mask of hatred. She reached for a special groundnut shell, a small but potent object she had hidden for years. Passed down through whispers of old magic, this groundnut shell held the power to transport her across great distances, but only under the cover of darkness. With swift, practiced motions, Adama breathed life into the shell's hidden power. A murmur fell from her lips, sounding more like a hiss than a chant. In an instant, she felt her spirit tear free of her body and shoot into the night sky. She soared over sleeping villages and dusty roads, over black oceans that stretched beneath a blanket of stars. It felt as though the wind itself carried her spirit, until at last she arrived in Nakbele. There, not far from the main road, stood Yaya's home. As the night air chilled her lungs, Adama slipped through the entrance. She moved like a shadow, quiet, nearly invisible. The house was modest but comfortable, filled with reminders of Yaya's generosity, small items she had collected, neatly kept letters from old friends. Adama saw nothing but the symbol of everything she had not achieved. In the corner of the kitchen sat Yaya's next meal. Adama crouched and dug through a small pouch at her waist. Her hand emerged with a handful of powder, thin and grey. With careful precision, she sprinkled it over Yaya's food. There would be no strange smell or taste to warn her sister, only a silent, invisible threat. Adama waited, heart pounding in her chest. Soon, Yaya entered, eyes heavy with sleep. She sat at the table, unaware of the danger. The first bite came swiftly. A startled gasp escaped Yaya's lips as pain shot through her abdomen. She hunched over, gripping her stomach. Adama watched, emotionless, as Yaya's breath became ragged. Time slowed to a crawl in that dreadful moment. Within minutes, Yaya's body collapsed. Her eyes glazed over, and then her breathing stopped altogether. Adama's lips curled into a cruel smile. Her jealousy had finally found release. Yet, in her eagerness to witness her sister's final moments, Adama had forgotten one important rule. She must return to her village before dawn for the magic to hold. If sunrise caught her mid-journey, the spell would weaken. Adama flinched when the first hint of light appeared on the horizon. She clutched the groundnut shell, whispering the words to bring her spirit home. The journey back felt slower, as if the darkness she depended on was slipping away. Her spirit rushed through the skies, but the sun began to rise. Beams of light cut through the night, chasing her like a golden tide. Adama arrived over her old hut, just as morning arrived. The force of the returning spell slammed her spirit back into her body. When her eyes fluttered open, she found herself sprawled on the flat roof of her mud brick home. She lay there with limbs twisted, not fully in control of her body. Below her, in the village square, the first market stalls were taking shape. A few women arranged baskets of vegetables and grains. One of them looked up, thinking she saw something move. Seeing a figure on the roof gave the woman a sudden jolt of fear. People did not sleep on rooftops in this village, and certainly not in such a strange, contorted position. Moving closer, the woman's face went pale. She sensed that something dreadful had taken place. Startled, she called out to those around her. Soon, more villagers approached, whispering among themselves. At first, they saw only a shape on the roof. Then, as the morning light revealed Adama's face, they recognized her. An uneasy murmur spread through the crowd. They had often suspected Adama of dark practices. Her eyes had a certain shadow, and she was known to shun the day, preferring to wander at night. Seeing her body half awake and trembling on her rooftop confirmed their worst fears. A shout broke the silence. Adama was a witch. The words hung in the air as everyone rushed forward, unwilling to let her slip away. Adama tried to flee, but her limbs ached from the failed spell, and her legs refused to carry her far. In moments, the villagers surrounded her, seizing her arms. They dragged her through the dusty path toward the chief's palace. There, in a wide courtyard where matters of justice were settled, the chief waited. The villagers gathered around in a tight circle. Adama stood in the center, breathing hard, her heart racing. Though her dark powers had led her this far, it seemed there was little magic left to save her now. Someone from the crowd stepped forward to speak. She described how Adama had been found on her roof at dawn, twisted and dazed. Another voice chimed in, recalling rumors of Adama's evil powers. Soon, the tale traveled from one villager to another like wildfire, each adding details they suspected or feared. Adama felt their eyes on her and realized the enormity of her guilt. In that moment, her hatred of Yaya, her bitter envy, and the planning of that terrible act all weighed on her. The villagers wanted a confession, and the chief demanded an explanation. Weakened and trembling, Adama finally spoke. She revealed how she had used the groundnut shell to travel to Nakbele in the dead of night. She admitted she had poisoned Yaya, leaving her sister to die alone on a cold floor. Every word seemed to drain Adama's strength, but a part of her wanted to unburden this dark secret, even if it sealed her fate. When she was done, a stunned silence overtook the courtyard. The villagers, who had suspected Adama of misdeeds, never imagined she could commit such a heartless crime. Some covered their mouths, while others shut their eyes in horror. Then, in that silence, Adama felt a sharp pain pierce her chest. Her confession had brought the final wave of her own curse upon her. She had tried to wield a forbidden power, and it now turned against her. Her breath caught, and she slumped to her knees. The world swam before her eyes. All at once, she collapsed. Before the villagers could move, Adama let out one last shaky breath. Her heart stopped beating, and her body went still. The people gathered around in shock. They feared touching her, afraid that the lingering magic might harm them too. It was clear Adama had paid the ultimate price for her evil deed. In the days that followed, the village elders decided what to do with Adama's remains. They had never seen such a case, and they took caution to bury her outside the village boundaries, where her spirit would cause no further harm. A small rough marker was placed on her grave, a simple stone with a warning carved into its surface. It read, "In memory of Adama the witch, who let envy guide her. May her story remind us of the danger of dark hearts." For many years, travelers and children were taken to see the marker. Old women would tell how Adama's jealousy consumed her, leading her to use evil magic and destroy the very sister she envied. They spoke of how Adama died on the day of her confession, proof that wickedness often destroys the one who holds it. Yaya's friends in Nagbele eventually learned what happened. They mourned her passing and shared memories of her goodness. Though she was gone, her light-hearted spirit remained a legend in that city. People said her warmth had touched many lives, from neighbors who borrowed sugar to children who needed a comforting smile. Yaya's generosity became the story of a life well lived. In Adama's home village, life soon returned to its peaceful routine. The markets bustled each morning, with women trading produce and men hauling goods. But whenever they walked past Adama's old house, they felt a chill. No one wanted to live there, fearing the shadows that might still linger within those walls. The roof, where Adama had lain after her final journey, caved in over time. It was a lonely ruin, a reminder of a sad chapter in the village's past. Yet in that village, and even beyond its borders, people remembered Adama's story. Parents would sometimes whisper it to their children at night, warning them that envy could lead to terrible actions. The story also served as a lesson about the danger of tampering with forbidden powers. The old magic of the groundnut shell, once whispered about in secret, became a cautionary tale of its own. There were no more sightings of witches lying on rooftops at dawn. The skies above the village felt clear and safe again, but whenever envy stirred in someone's heart, they thought of Adama. They remembered that no matter how strong one's magic or cunning might be, a spiteful heart can bring about its own ruin. And so, as the years passed, Adama's tale remained a permanent part of the village's memory. Her grave, marked by a single stone, stood as a stark reminder. Envy leads only to sorrow, and dark deeds often destroy the doer long before they harm anyone else. In this way, Adama's life ended as a tragic lesson. Yaya's warmth and kindness lived on in the memories of everyone who had known her. Meanwhile, Adama's bitter hatred ended not only her sister's life, but also her own. Her story was told for generations, cautioning listeners to guard their hearts against envy and to seek honest ways to achieve their dreams. Even after all the villagers who knew Adama and Yaya had grown old and passed away, travelers sometimes stumbled upon that lonely grave outside the village. They would see the rough inscription and feel a shiver, as if the wind itself carried Adama's regret. The sun would set, painting the sky orange and red, and the travelers would depart, holding the memory of that simple stone in their minds. Thus, the story of Adama the Witch continued, not as an epic tale told in grand halls, but as a quiet, unsettling reminder that we must keep our hearts free of malice and our minds wary of forbidden powers. And so the legend endured, carrying its grim warning across Africa's dusty roads and into the hearts of those willing to listen. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more exciting stories from the heart of Africa.